morning, everyone. We are going to begin by singing, and I want to take a special note. You might have noticed that the piano is covered this morning. You are in for a treat. We are going to be using our organ this morning, both for our special music and for accompaniment for our hymns, with the fabulous Kevin Rose playing the organ. And that means, yes, by all means. And the great thing about being accompanied by an organ during our community singing is that you can have permission to sing real loud because the organ can support that. So please rise in body and spirit, and let's sing number 318, We Would Be One. Welcome to the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. We come together out of our many lives to be one community this morning, one community here in this sanctuary, one community in our online sanctuary, one community on this one great earth, striving to live with integrity, nurture wonder, and inspire the actions that transform us and transform the world. I'm the Reverend Julia Hamilton. My pronouns are she, her, and I am delighted to be here with you this morning, all of you who have taken the time out of your life to come together, to grow your spirit, to open your hearts, and to work for a more compassionate community. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors and friends we have here with us in person or online. We would love to get to know you better. You can stop by the welcome table after the service. You can click the visitor link and give us your information so we can reach out with ways to get connected. And if you're new here and you want to get a little bit more connected to this place and this community, Chris Shorb, right over there, is going to be doing a short campus tour right after the service. You can meet him in the front office after you grab your coffee, and it's just an opportunity to move around and get familiar with this space we call our home. So all are invited, whether you've been here for a long time or a short time, feel free to join Chris, and maybe you'll see some new spaces that you haven't seen before. We have a lot of things going on here in the congregation, and we would love to keep connected, so stop by the visitor table and find out more. And if you are feeling like this might be your home, like this might be your community, we would love to welcome you into membership at any time, and you can talk to Kira, our membership and outreach coordinator, at the membership table. We do have an ongoing project that has been in the works for quite a few years here at the Unitarian Society, but is taking off as we move into the work of our capital campaign. and that is the creation of a permanent land acknowledgement, acknowledging that we rest on the ancestral lands of the Chumash, the unceded territory here in our campus, and we want to recognize this as we do the work of re-envisioning our space together. And so we have a group, the Chumash Outreach Team, who is seeking proposals from Indigenous artists to work with us on developing that visual land acknowledgement. We want to spread this word as wide as possible, so you'll be seeing more information. Please share with friends in the community so that we can invite people to help us create this beautiful piece of art that will grace our campus going forward. Before we move into ringing our bell, I want to say just one more note about the music that we are going to be hearing this morning. Our theme is friendship, and I am so grateful that Kevin has thoughtfully put together an organ program that reflects that theme. 2 pairs of pieces, each related to friendship and mentorship between the composers. The prelude you just heard was an aria by Paul Mance, who lived in Minneapolis, but studied organ with Floor Peters from Belgium, whose aria you will hear at the offertory. 2 folks in relationship through their music across the ocean. After the meditation, we will hear a piece by Johann Sebastian Bach, and then a postlude by his friend Dietrich Buxtehude, which I may or may... Buxtehude, thank you. As the story goes, in 1705, Bach, at the age of 20, walked nearly 400 kilometers, or 250 miles, to visit the 68-year-old friend of his. Evidently, Bach got some trouble from his day job for taking so long away from work, but sometimes when it comes to seeing a friend, it's worth it. So I invite you to enjoy our organ music created and crafted by friends this morning. I invite you now to take a breath, to settle yourself wherever you are, as I ring our bell and let the sound connect us.
Today come from A.A. Milne, best known as the author of the Winnie the Pooh books, which have taught generations of children and their families about the power of friendship. A friend is someone who helps you up when you're down, and if they can't, they lie down beside you and listen. A friend is one of the nicest things you can have and one of the best things you can be. Every week, we look for at least one good thing to uplift our spirits. The one good thing this week happened in Florida. On Thursday, the Florida Everglades Immigration Center, better known as Alligator Alcatraz, closed. The center opened in July 2025 and has faced harsh criticism for its conditions, including humans being kept in cages in extreme heat, insect infestations, inadequate food supplies, poor sanitation, and a lack of medical care. Environmentalists in the ACLU, and especially the local tribe of indigenous people, all played a crucial role in the closure. The tribe on whose lands the notorious prison camp is located raised serious concerns about the impact the facility had on their culture and ancestral lands, water, and wildlife. It is a good thing that a coalition of concerned citizens worked together to force the closure of this facility. I actually have a second good thing to mention this morning. Our minister, Julie, is having a birthday coming up in a couple of days. And what better way to celebrate than having all your friends sing you happy birthday? Those online are welcome to type a birthday wish in the chat. Julia, can you come on up here? Wait 1 second, I have one more thing to say. Since this is your last service for a while, we wanted to wish you a happy birthday and also wish you well in your study vacation. May you have an enjoyable and enlightening experience, and we look forward to hearing about it when you get back.
And y'all, there was a banner drop over the balcony up there if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Well, let's take a moment and get to know one another. Just a few moments to turn to someone near you, say hello, welcome this morning, and then we will sing one more time. Yes. All right, everyone. I'm going to ask that you continue your conversations after the service. I can hear the hum of some good ideas being exchanged, but we're going to sing again. So, singers, come on up. And if everyone would like to rise in body and spirit, we are going to sing Here We Have Gathered. Now is the time when we get to share a story for people of all ages, but if you want to come up closer and join me and Sarah here on the carpet for a story, you are more than welcome to do so. This is one of my favorite storytellers from when I was a little kid. You can either stay where you are or come on up. And I'm so glad that Sarah and I get to do this. Charlotte is out on her vacation right now, so it means we get the treat of sharing a story. Come on up.
It's one of my favorite things.
All right. And this is a story about two friends, Frog and Toad. How many of you have ever read Frog and Toad stories? Yes. Written by Arnold Lobel, and it's called The Letter. Toad was sitting on his front porch. Frog came along and said, "What's the matter, Toad? You are looking sad."
Yes, said Toad. This is my sad time of day. It's the time when I wait for the mail to come, and it always makes me very unhappy.
"Why is that?" asked Frog.
Because I never get any mail, said Toad.
"Not ever?" asked Frog.
No, never, said Toad. No one has ever sent me a letter. Every day my mailbox is empty. That is why waiting for the mail is a sad time for me.
Frog and Toad sat on the porch, feeling sad together. Then Frog said, "I have to go home now, Toad. There is something I must do." Frog hurried home. He found a pencil and a piece of paper. He wrote on the paper. He put the paper in an envelope. On the envelope, he wrote, "A letter for Toad." Frog ran out of his house. He saw a snail that he knew. "Snail," said Frog, "please take this letter to Toad's house and put it in the mailbox." "Sure," said the snail, "right away." Then Frog ran back to Toad's house. Toad was in bed, taking a nap. "Toad," said Frog, "I think you should get up and wait for the mail some more."
No, said Toad. I am tired of waiting for the mail.
Frog looked out of the window at Toad's mailbox. The snail was not there yet. "Toad," said Frog, "you never know when someone might send you a letter."
No, no, said Toad. I do not think anyone will ever send me a letter.
Frog looked out of the window. The snail was not there yet. "But Toad," said Frog, "someone may send you a letter today."
Don't be silly, said Toad. No one has ever sent me a letter before, and no one will send me a letter today.
Frog looked out of the window. The snail was still not there.
Frog, why do you keep looking out the window?
"Because now I am waiting for the mail," said Frog.
But there will not be any, said Toad.
"Oh, yes, there will," said Frog, "because I have sent you a letter."
You have? Said Toad. What did you write in the letter?
Frog said, "I wrote, 'Dear Toad, I am glad that you are my best friend. Your best friend, Frog.'"
Oh, said Toad. That makes a very good letter.
Then Frog and Toad went out onto the front porch to wait for the mail. They sat there, feeling happy together. Frog and Toad waited for a long time. 4 days later, the snail got to Toad's house and gave him the letter from Frog. Toad was very pleased to have it. And that is our story about friendship this morning. We are going to sing you to your makerspace activities. Every week, we add a butterfly to our monarch branch to recognize those who are taken from our community by ice. This has been a particularly difficult couple of weeks, And many of you in our congregation are very active in the community organizing that helps work to support our immigrant neighbors and make our community a safer place in these difficult times. I've invited Bart Woolery to come forward and share a little bit more about the work he is doing, the work you might get involved with as we hold this space in our service together.
Good morning. Early last Sunday morning, 12 people were abducted from the streets of our city by ICE agents. These abductions, these actions appear to be random, but are definitely specifically geared towards a specific demographic. These people were transported down to a temporary detention facility in Camarillo, and after 2 hours or so, one of them was released so that his injuries sustained during the abduction could be treated at a local hospital. What is clear is that these actions are meant to terrorize a specific demographic. Unfortunately, in our country, many believe these actions are about addressing the issue of immigration and citizenship. Immigration is an issue, a very complex issue, but in fact, the issue that needs to be addressed here is the abuses of due process, the right to due process, which is a right enjoyed by every person in this country, regardless of their citizenship status. I would like to read to you how you can participate in a moment, but I just want you to be clear that this right now is about citizenship or immigration, or appears to be, but tomorrow it could be about your sexual orientation or your social media posts or some similar excuse. That's just how fascism works. We should all be terrorized. That said, I would like to invite you to join the resistance, in this case, the Rapid Response Network, to bear witness to these abuses. There are many ways you can participate with direct action. You can patrol, you can respond directly to incidents, or you can simply observe from a static point to see what's going on and alert people. There are many other ways to participate. Your task is to primarily document what's going on, to make sure that the people in the community are safe by alerting the presence of ICE in their community, in our community. And your primary objective is to keep yourself safe. You will never be asked to do something that will put your safety at risk. Please talk to me if you are interested in joining us, and consider those in your circle who also might be interested in joining us. I look forward to welcoming you to an amazing team that would love to have you. And to end on a little lighter note, you will at least get a whistle. Julia.
Bearing witness is why we do this with the Monarch Branch every week, to remember the people who have been abducted from us, our friends and neighbors, and commit to bearing witness until this violence and abuse ends. We will not be silent. And so we ring our bell 12 times for the 12 people and their friends and family who we hold in our hearts this morning. There is a lot we carry with us every time we enter this shared space on Sunday. And so I invite us into a time of meditation and reflection, a time to get in touch with that compassionate space in your heart that holds your hope and your pain. As we enter into this time together, I am thinking not only of the places in the world that have been hurting, the wars in Ukraine and Iran and Gaza. I'm also thinking most, of course, recently of the earthquake in Venezuela, or should I say earthquakes, and the heat emergency unfolding across Europe. And so I invite us into this time with a reading of the poem Fault Line by Robert Walsh. Did you ever think there might be a fault line passing underneath your living room? A place in which your life is lived in meeting and in separating, wondering and telling, unaware that just beneath you is the unseen seam of great plates that strain through time. And that your life, already spilling over the brim, could be invaded, sent off in a new direction, turned aside by forces you were warned about but not prepared for. Shelves could be spilled out, the level floor set at an angle in some seconds shaking. You would have to take your losses, do whatever must be done next. When the great plates slip, and the earth shivers and the flaw is seen to lie in what you trusted most, look not to more solidity, to weighty slabs of concrete poured, or strength of cantilevered beam to save the fractured order. Trust more the tensile strands of love that bend and stretch to hold you in the web of life that's often torn but always healing. There's your strength. The shifting plates, the restive earth, your room, your precious life, they all proceed from love, the ground on which we travel together. Let us enter into a time of quiet. Listening to that, I am prompted to reflect on who I might walk 250 miles to go visit. We're going to share 2 poems on friendship with you this morning. The first is by Elizabeth Bishop, and it's titled Invitation to Miss Marianne Moore. From Brooklyn, over the Brooklyn Bridge on this fine morning, please come flying. In a cloud of fiery, pale chemicals, please come flying. To the rapid rolling of thousands of small blue drums descending out of the mackerel sky over the glittering grandstand of harbor water, please come flying. Whistles, pennants, and smoke are blowing. The ships are signaling cordially with multitudes of flags rising and falling like birds all over the harbor. Enter 2 rivers, gracefully bearing countless little pellucid jellies in cut glass aubergines dragging with silver chains. The flight is safe. The weather is all arranged. The waves are running in verses this fine morning. Please come flying. Come with the pointed toe of each black shoe trailing a sapphire highlight, with a black cape full of butterfly wings and bon mot, with heaven knows how many angels all riding on the broad black brim of your hat. Please come flying. Wearing a musical inaudible abacus, a slight censorious frown, and blue ribbons. Please come flying. Facts and skyscrapers glint in the tide. Manhattan is all awash with morals this fine morning, so please come flying. Mounting the sky with natural heroism above the accidents, above the malignant movies, the taxicabs and injustices at large, while horns are resounding in your beautiful ears that simultaneously listen to a soft, uninvented music fit for the musk deer, please come flying. For whom the grim museums will behave like courteous male bowerbirds, for whom the agreeable lions lie in wait on the steps of the public library, eager to rise and follow through the doors up into the reading rooms, please come flying. We can sit down and weep. We can go shopping or play at a game of constantly being wrong with a priceless set of vocabularies. Or we can bravely deplore, but please come flying. With dynasties of negative constructions darkening and dying around you, with grammar that suddenly turns and shines like flocks of sandpipers flying, please come flying. Come like a light in the white mackerel sky. Come like a daytime comet with a long, unnebulous train of words from Brooklyn, over the Brooklyn Bridge, on this fine morning. Please come flying.
This is a little shorter. This is On Being With You by George Eliot. Oh, the comfort, the inexpressible comfort of feeling safe with a friend, having neither to weigh thoughts nor measure words, but pouring them out just as they are, grain and chaff together, certain that a faithful hand will take them and sift them, keep what is worth keeping, and with the breath of kindness, blow the rest away. Each week, we give away 25% of our Sunday plate offering to a special project or organization. This month, our outreach organization is Doctors Without Walls Santa Barbara Street Medicine, which is dedicated to providing free volunteer medical care for the most vulnerable of Santa Barbara County, when and where they are in need, including in times of disaster. To have 100% of your donation go directly to this month's project, you can write your check to USSB and write Doctors Without Walls, Santa Barbara Street Medicine in the memo line, or use the link online. Please join me now in the affirmation of gratitude and giving. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
One of the things I love about having the organ play in our space is the way that it's a whole body experience. If you ever get the opportunity to sit up underneath the pipes while the organ is playing, I invite you to do so. In fact, at the end of the service during the prelude, if you want to, feel free to come up to the chancel and experience the organ from up here. So one of the best things that happens when I write a sermon is when in the process of writing, I end up somewhere I did not expect to go. This morning's sermon about friendship has taken me on just such a journey beyond where I expected to travel, and I'd like to take you along with me. When I began, I was simply thinking about this sermon as the last before I step away from the pulpit for a few weeks of rest and study, and I wanted to give you something to think about over the next month. A sort of summertime charge. Go forth and invest in friendship. After all, that's what many of you are here to do, to find a place to form meaningful relationships that will help you get through life's challenges and help you celebrate life's joys. So I wanted to give you a few stories of meaningful friendships from our Unitarian Universalist history to inspire you. and give you a few high fives for already taking the initiative by being here in the first place, which can take a lot of courage, and then send you out into July with a spring in your step and a willingness to invite someone for tea. Because by now everyone knows that friendship is in a kind of crisis. Ever since Robert Putnam wrote the book Bowling Alone, which was over 25 years ago, there's been a sense that loneliness and lack of social connection is a growing problem. Last year in 2025, a scholar at the Harvard Kennedy School's Leadership and Happiness Laboratory, that's a real thing that exists, they wrote about the friendship recession, trying to identify all the reasons why we are spending less and less time with friends, down from an average of 6.5 hours a week, a number that had held steady for decades, to a mere 4 hours a week between 2014 and 2019. And that doesn't even take into account everything that has happened since the COVID shutdown. There's been no shortage of commentary to find about how the internet and social media have negatively impacted our social lives, ironically, most of it on the internet and social media. And study after study shows what we know to be true in our bones, that face-to-face time with friends makes us healthier and happier. And yet somehow it's harder and harder to find and cultivate the kind of bonds we want to have. So if you're finding it hard to make friends these days, you are not alone. But as I dove into this topic, another aspect of friendship began to surface, something I had not seen in the statistics or studies, but became clearer the more I read, especially as I swam through these historical writings about friendship. It was like discovering what I thought was an ice cube was in fact an iceberg, something much larger below the surface. The crisis of friendship is not just a crisis in personal well-being and our individual mental health. It's not just something we need to resolve so we can lead happier lives. The crisis of friendship is part of the threat to our civic future, to the very existence of our democracy, and given how impactful our political choices are on the climate of this earth, the crisis of friendship is becoming part of this existential crisis that has global implications. I know this sounds grand. How does the fact that we spend less time with fewer friends impact climate change? So let me back up and tell a few stories, and then I'll share how I arrived at this conclusion. One of the great gifts of our Unitarian Universalist history is that it gives us many models for how transformative friendships can become. Once you start looking, our history is full of relationships across the divides of gender and age and race and social status. Relationships that didn't just bring personal growth and happiness to the friends involved, but brought about a growth of revolutionary ideas, collaborative experiments, and collective action that transformed society at large. This was particularly true among the abolitionists, the transcendentalists, the suffragists, and others who were seeking new ways of building a more beloved world, a world where everyone can thrive. These friendships were not accidental or haphazard. They were thought of as spiritual friendships, cultivated with intention, established with the idea that friendship could be as important or perhaps even more important than the romantic relationships in one's life. Thankfully for us, these folks also kept a lot of journals and wrote a lot of letters, so we can hear about these stories from their own direct experiences. Ralph Waldo Emerson, a Unitarian minister and one of the most famous essayists and public speakers of his time, wrote, "I do not wish to treat friendships daintily, but with the roughest courage. When they are real, they are not glass threads or frostwork, but the solidest thing we know. Friendship demands a religious treatment," he said. One such friendship was between Frederick Douglass and the Reverend Theodore Parker. whose name I think is on that window right there in the middle. Douglass, one of the most prominent African-American activists of the 19th century, had become acquainted with many abolitionist Unitarians as a young man when he was a free fugitive escaping enslavement, and became friends with Parker in the 1840s while they were both working for abolition and for the protection of others who had also escaped. They also both secretly worked with John Brown as he was planning his uprising at Harper's Ferry, a fact which only came out decades after the fact. Douglass admired Parker's preaching and his theology, and the African-American historian William Vandenberg finds evidence that this discourse between Parker and Douglass influenced the liberalization of Douglass's own Christian faith over time. Parker died and was buried in Italy in 1860. And years later, in 1887, when Douglass was touring Europe, he arranged to arrive in Florence on the 27th anniversary of his friend's death. And the very first stop after getting off the train was Parker's grave. When he got there, he was so disappointed in the sort of plain and dingy grave marker that he found that he worked with another friend of his, Theodore Stanton, the son of Elizabeth Cady Stanton, to commission a new monument. As he wrote in a letter to Stanton, "I am not an advocate of costly monuments over the decaying bodies of the dead, but the stone at such a man's grave should be a sermon." So if you ever visit Florence, Italy, be sure to stop by and see Parker's grave and reflect on his friendship with Frederick Douglass, who had these words inscribed on the stone. His name is engraved in marble, his virtues in the hearts of those he helped to free from slavery and superstition. For another story of spiritual friendship, we can follow the thread back one generation to a man who influenced Parker's theology and ministry, William Ellery Channing, whose name is also on one of our windows, that second window right there. Channing was a mentor of Parker's, as he was to many of the young ministers who had become part of the Transcendentalist Club. But it wasn't just other ministers that Channing befriended. One of his most influential spiritual friendships was with Elizabeth Peabody, who would become the first woman publisher in Boston and the owner of a bookshop where the most famous transcendentalists of the day would gather for discussion. And it was an especially important place for women in the movement because they were denied access to seminary, could not become ministers like their friends, and so they would gather to read all of the books that their friends were reading in their classes at the divinity school. But years before she opened her shop, Elizabeth Peabody had arrived at Reverend Channing's Federal Street meeting house in deep despair. Not only had she lost her teaching job because of her radical progressive views, but the first man she loved had married her sister. And somebody should make a movie about this. The second man she had a flirtation with, Nathaniel Hawthorne, married her other sister. She was in quite a state. So Channing gave her books to read. Who doesn't love to throw themselves into a good book after heartbreak, right? And the two of them began this long and friendly exchange around theology and the idea of human goodness, and it reignited her interest in education and the formation of the spirit. After her bookshop, she would go on to open the very first English-speaking kindergarten in the United States and spend the last 30 years of her life promoting early childhood education based on her belief in the inherent goodness of children. A radical departure from the idea of original sin that was dominant at the time. Peabody would also later write and publish Channing's memoirs. Their friendship had ripples far beyond their own individual lives. As the Reverend John Burens wrote in an article about some of these historical friendships from our tradition, forming and maintaining spiritual friendships across the lines of difference takes spiritual discipline. But spiritual friendships transcending differences is basic to effective work for social justice. Looking back at these examples from our history prompted me to think more deeply about how and why friendship is not just important because of our individual happiness, not just about someone with whom we can share our inner life and our personal growth, although it's great to have that, but it is also one of the key conditions for social change, especially in challenging times and situations when the stakes are high and the work of making the world a better place seems unending and sometimes impossible. When it takes years and perhaps even decades to see change happen, cultivating deep and meaningful relationships accomplishes more than just giving us people to laugh and cry and blow off steam with. Spiritual friendships don't just help us through hard times. They help us transform our thinking and sometimes even our entire worldview so that new horizons open up. Things we never would have imagined or dreamed possible on our own suddenly become more real when shared. Have you ever had that moment when in a conversation with a friend, maybe you just kind of throw out a wild, half-formed idea, and then they pick it up and begin asking questions, and this conversation emerges, and suddenly something clicks, and something like starting your own business, maybe a bookshop, suddenly seems possible. Or an assumption that you might have held about how the world always works gets challenged, like who and who doesn't get to vote, for example. Maybe a friend engages in that conversation and you shift together into a new sense of what we can be. These can be ideas large or small, personal or political, but in discussion with a trusted friend, inspiration is more likely to appear in the space between us. In these friendships, ideas are born that never would have come into being if two people didn't have a foundation of mutual trust and respect and admiration and joy and fun and all of the things that help us bind together. In these friendships, a collaborative and creative spirit can arise, leading, frankly, to better ideas than we would have alone in our room, and more effective action than we could ever manage by ourselves. The solitary genius is almost always a myth. We may remember the person whose name is signed at the bottom of the page, but the ideas are almost always expressed and refined in conversation and community long before they ever make history. In our current atmosphere, a lot of emphasis is put on debate between opposing sides. This idea that antagonism is somehow how we achieve progress. We're exhorted to find folks we disagree with and talk to them or perhaps at them. But this does nothing but keep us chained to our anxieties, this culture of arguing and takedown with strangers to score points on the internet. This does not build the kind of trust necessary for transformation. Competition is somehow viewed as this crucible that distills ideas. News organizations keep score of who is winning and losing, focusing on who has the upper hand rather than who has a compelling vision for the future. But, and this is where reading these stories from our history lead me to make a larger claim about friendship than just it's good for us. What if what gives rise to the ideas that will save us, that will turn the tide against climate change, for example, or that will re-envision democracy into something even better and more liberating than it has ever been before? What if these new ways of being aren't generated through aggressive debates online, of all places, but rather than the long, creative, and sometimes challenging exchanges between friends who are brave enough to ask questions of each other about the things that matter, questions that have no easy answers, but live and come into flourishing in that space of love and mutual admiration. Questions like, what is a good life? How do we want to live together in this world? What do we do when we make mistakes? How do we create the conditions for liberation? I mean, really, let's sit down and get into it. How do we do that? Where do we find the courage and the will to keep fighting for this world we long for? And if the statistics and studies are telling us the truth, we don't have these friends in quite the same way to ask these questions with. And if we have fewer of them, or if we live in a way that makes such friendships nearly impossible to nurture, if we lose our capacity to cultivate spiritual friendships, where will the radical, revolutionary, creative, collaborative work that has the potential to save us come from? My friend Colin, who is also a Unitarian Universalist minister, talks about friendship as bravery, about how reaching out is scary because whenever you reach out, there's the possibility that they won't reach back, right? You face the possibility of rejection when you extend yourself into the world. And being a friend means willing to take that risk, to be vulnerable on purpose. Because sometimes friends can break our hearts just as much as lovers. So making friends, he says, means being brave enough to take the risk. But by being brave enough to make friends, we learn to be brave in other ways too. Brave enough to ask those questions we don't know the answers to yet. Brave enough to risk looking foolish or stupid or naive. Brave enough to be wrong and know that we are still loved. Emerson wrote, "The glory of friendship is not the outstretched hand, not the kindly smile, nor the joy of companionship. It is the spiritual inspiration that comes to one when you discover that someone else believes in you and is willing to trust you with a friendship." And that spiritual inspiration, that is the byproduct of friendship that just might be the key to turning this whole thing around. The stakes are high. And we need to invest in our friends more than ever. Friendship by itself does not change the world. But I have no doubt that without it, without that liberating experience of being loved and accepted and known by those whom we call our friends, and without the chance to give some of that love back in return, without a place to take risks and practice that kind of relationship, we will be stuck repeating the same patterns that got us into this mess in the first place. So when I return in a few weeks' time, I hope that I will find you have not just found a new summertime friend to laugh with you in the good times and cry with you in the hard times, as I say in our birthday blessing at the beginning of each month, but I hope that you will have found a few opportunities to cultivate those deeper spiritual friendships that over time will transform you, will transform us, and just maybe transform the world. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Let us sing together, accompanied by our glorious organ one more time. We're going to sing What Wondrous Love. It's number 18. Please rise in body and spirit. want to put your hand over your heart or hold the hand of someone near you. However it is you get connected to this larger love that flows through us. And as you go out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, may the light of love shine upon you, out from within you, be gracious unto you, and bring you peace. For this is the day you are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, and let us call out a blessing.